welcome back to my channel. I'm Rachel, the owner and creator here at the Eclectic Cottage in Spokane, Washington. Happy Thursday, everyone. For today's video, I have some Valentine's Day projects, kind of the last of what I plan on doing for Valentine's Day. I absolutely love the way my projects turn out, though. I can hardly wait to show them to you. And without further ado, let's get to today's projects. My first project is a pretty simple one. I am making over this little basket that I was given by a customer a while back, and I wanted this to have kind of a darker neutral look, so I picked a DIY's color called Prairie Gray. Since this basket is very roughly woven and textured, I am using my mister bottle to thin out my paint to really work it down into all of the little nooks and crannies in this basket. And I did my best to paint the inside. It's a very tight squeeze though, so I probably got 80% coverage on the inside. And I just worked my way around the entire basket, covering everything with a coat of that Prairie Gray paint. To seal my paint, I decided to go with the easy route and use a spray sealer, mainly because it is such a tight squeeze on the inside. So I am just coating this entire basket with a good coat of Rustoleum matte clear spray. Now, since this is a Valentine's Day project, I wanted to put something on the front of my basket. So I decided to use a little scrap of muslin fabric that I had. I kind of torn it out and then frayed the edges. And then I picked a transfer from the new set. It's called Amour Affair by Redesign with Prima. And I cut that out, laid it down onto my fabric, and then I began applying my transfer. So I just peeled the back off, laid it down, and I'm going over it with that transfer stick, rubbing it down into the fabric while I slowly peel back that piece of vellum. Now, it did take me a little bit of rubbing to get that first part of the transfer to go down onto the fabric, but once I had that, the rest of it went down pretty easily. Once I had my transfer applied to my piece of fabric, I went over it really well with my fingers, kind of burnishing it in, making sure I didn't have any wrinkles or air bubbles. And lastly, it's time to attach it to the front of my basket. For that, I'm just using my hot glue gun and putting a little dab in the four corners to attach it. And then my first project is complete. I love this little Valentine's Day accent. I think it would be a perfect little holder for Valentine's Day cards, and I hope you guys like it too. I have been wanting to create some small art pieces using some of the frame molds by Redesign with Prima for a while. I grabbed out this set. It's one that released a while back. It's called Ornate Legacy, and I used the two-part casting resin to create these castings, and then I am starting this project by giving them each a coat of paint. For the two larger ones, I'm going in with DIY's Cottage color called Plaster, and for the two smaller frames I am going in with Vintage Pink, which is also one of the Cottage colors. Once I was done painting my frames, it was time to create some artwork to go on the insides of them. I had this really thick, this is frame backer board, so I traced out the inside of each of the castings onto it. And then when I cut them out, I cut at approximately a 1/4 inch beyond my line so that I would have somewhere to put glue to glue them onto my frames. Once I had them all cut out, I went over each one with a coat of that plaster paint because I needed a good neutral background for some decoupage paper. For my decoupage paper, I wanted something relatively simple and neutral that I could use as a background. So I chose this beautiful one by Roycycled called Music Notes. And I am, again, just tracing out my pieces so that I can cut out the paper to size. Once I had all of my pieces of paper cut out, it was time to decoupage them onto my prepared backers. For my medium this go around, I am using Sweet Pickins top coat in matte, and I'm putting a nice even coat of that onto the backer, then laying the paper down over it, making sure that I've lined it up as well as I can, and then going over it with a second coat of that medium. I'm using my brush and just a little bit of pressure to help remove any air bubbles and wrinkles, and you can see I also go over things with my fingers carefully. Again, just to help remove any wrinkles or air bubbles. Now, while this paper is very pretty, it is also very light in color, and I wanted it to have just a bit more of a vintage feel. So to do that, I am using DIY's Decrepit Dust in the dark and a little bit more of the top coat, and I am just very gently dipping just the tips of my bristles on my brush into that decrepit dust, mixing it with a little bit of that top coat, and then spreading that over the top of my paper to give it a touch of patina. Once I was finished with this process, I flipped my little backers over and trimmed off any excess paper that was hanging over the edge. Then it was finally time to move on to the artwork for my little frames. And for that, I'm again using this beautiful new set by Redesign with Prima called Amour Affair. Once I'd finished with all of my artwork that's going to be going into my frames, I decided to give them a little bit more patina as well. So I'm going over them with a coat of DIY's dark wax. I'm just using a tiny little brush and I'm putting a good coat of that all over my frame and then wiping back the excess with a dry shop towel. Now the beautiful thing about the Cottage colors is that they do have that built-in sealer. So this dark wax really doesn't soak down into the paint too much. It simply gives a little bit of patina and really helps to bring out some of the details in these frames. Now, I will say that there were a couple areas where I felt like the dark wax was just a little bit heavy. And in those cases, I grab out my clear wax brush and I just simply go over those areas with a little bit of clear wax. It acts almost like an eraser. And then I just use my dry shop towel to wipe that back, and that will help lighten those areas up. Once I was finished with the dark wax, I decided these guys needed a little bit of shimmer. So I am going over them with some Eternal Decor wax by Redesign with Prima. And I'm just dipping the tip of my finger into that and then rubbing it over the details to leave a little bit of that beautiful gold behind. I I don't know about you, but I am a relatively messy crafter, and it always seems like the backs of my projects get gobs of paint on them or little bits of wax. So I did go ahead and put a coat of paint on the backs of my frames and the backs of my backers before I put everything together. Then once my paint was dry, all that was left to do was put my frames together. I added a little bit of hot glue along the very edge of each of my pieces of art, and then very carefully centered the frames over each one until I had them all glued in place. This was such a fun little project, and I absolutely love the way these frames came out, and I hope you guys like them too. For my third and final project, I wanted to create a moss-covered heart topiary using one of the Dollar Tree styrofoam hearts. Now, so many things went wrong with this project, you guys. First of all, I don't have the right glue gun here at my shop. For some reason, I had taken my lower temperature one home, forgotten to bring it back, so all I had here was my industrial strength one, which not only melted the styrofoam, but it burned all of my fingertips in the process as well. And what really stunk is I had gotten two decent sized chunks down and realized you could see little specks of white through them. So I ended up tearing those off and painting my heart with some DIY paint. This one's called Monet's Garden. So I just put a coat down, dried it off really well, and then went back to trying to get this moss glued down. And of course, you can see every time I put a little bit of glue onto the moss, there's steam coming out because it's so blasted hot. I ended up using the little spindle to help hold it into place to try and save my poor fingertips. But I just kept going over all of the places, anywhere I could see the green kind of poking through, I would add a little bit more moss until I had that entire heart covered. To hold my styrofoam heart above the pot, I am using this cute little spindle that I've had in my stash. I don't even know honestly where this thing came from. It is broken on the top, but I thought that would be perfect because it's a little bit pointy, and I figured it would help it go into the bottom of the heart a little easier. So I'm going over it with a good coat of layered chocolate by DIY, and then I am sealing my paint with a coat of clear wax by DIY. And once I was finished with that, I decided to go over it with some white wax as well. Between each coat of wax, I am removing any excess with a dry shop towel. The white wax, I really wanted to get quite a bit of it off, so I went over my spindle a few times until I was happy with how it looked. Then I just cut away a little bit of the styrofoam at the bottom of the heart to make inserting the spindle a little easier. For the base, I'm using a clay pot, and you can see as I put that spindle into the heart, there was a clay pot that I had finished originally in various colors. I used layered chocolate and Monet's Garden and gypsy green, and then I broke said pot, you guys, and had to start over. And I liked the way the first one turned out, but I wasn't super happy with it. So for the second go round, I decided to go with a lighter color. So I painted the pot with Plaster, which is that Cottage color by DIY. And then I picked out one of the beautiful transfers in this Amour Affair set again, and I placed that onto my pot and began rubbing it down into place. One small piece of advice when applying transfers is to make sure to wait until your paint is completely dry. I unfortunately did not do that with this pot, so it was not only a little bit of a bear to apply, it also pulled up my paint in a couple areas and left little cracks showing. So once I got it completely applied, I rubbed it down into the pot really, really well, and then went over the cracks with a little bit more paint so that you couldn't see them. Now, it's a good idea to protect your transfer with some sort of a top coat. And since I wanted to add a little bit of patina to my pot anyway, I just went ahead and went over the whole thing with a little bit of DIY's dark wax. Once I had that applied, I went ahead and wiped back the excess with a dry shop towel, just making sure that I got all of that excess wax removed. Then it was just a matter of putting my topiary together. So I glued the top piece of foam onto the bottom. And yes, I actually do have my correct glue gun for this. Added a little bit of Spanish moss, and then this project is finished. In the end, I am really happy with how it all came together, and I hope you guys like it too. That is it from here for today, you guys. I hope you liked my projects and I hope you enjoyed today's video. What did you guys think of the Moss Heart Topiary? I really love how it came out, but man, my fingers were sore for a couple of days after I finished it, I have to say. I do hope you guys enjoyed today's video though. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up. I so appreciate that. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel and then just hit the little notification bell so you don't miss anything. And then don't forget to drop a comment below and let me know what you thought of today's projects. Just a quick reminder too, I do carry a full line of DIY paint and products in the shop here and also on my website, and that is www.theeclecticcottagespokane.com. I carry DIY paint and products as well as Sweet Pickins milk paint and products, and the color for this month is First Crush, which is a really pretty bubblegum pink, and that's 35% off through the end of February. I also carry Roycycled Treasures Decoupage papers, which I just received her newest release. I haven't had a chance to put it into my computer system yet. I'm hoping to do that within the next couple of days. And on my next video, it's going to be a small thrift haul, and I will show you all of the new beautiful papers from Roycycled as well. And then of course I carry Redesign with Prima product. Thank you all so very much for your orders of the new release. I just wanted to let you guys know as well that I do have a new shipment coming in actually today that should restock anything out of the new release that is currently out of stock on my website. So all of the little bunny transfers I'm getting back, the one Winnie the Pooh one that I'm out of, and then a few other things. So if there's anything you need, it should be back in stock by the end of day today. So you can check those out again at my website. Anyway, like I said on, oh goodness, Sunday's video is going to be a small thrift haul. My husband and I have been all over looking for things to add, but I just really have not found a lot of good treasures, but I haven't, I think, enough to put together a small thrift haul. And then of course with the redesign release, that'll help too. So I hope you guys will join me on Sunday for that. Until then, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week and beginning of the weekend. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it, and I will see you back here on Sunday. Bye.